this is about this country being steeped in witchcraft and using their resources. We are one of their resources. Really, it starts when you're born in a hospital, if they can make use of you, depending on your DNA, your bloodline, what time you were born, star charts, ley lines. They have all these infrastructures in place to sort these children out and use them for the purpose that they need them for. So they can use us for whatever organs, I hate to say this, but it's pedophilia, rituals. There's always a use they're going to find for you. And these people are working up and down the country. They've got these prominent positions within authority, and if they want something for you, and you could come first, they want something from you, it'll be your own demise almost if you try and challenge anything like that. And I think that's why we've got a lot of disinformation, because we've got a lot of wannabes out there that have never had any experiences, and they just think that they can listen to an interview and say, oh, I'll say this and I'll say that. But, this isn't it's not a good position to find yourself in. It's nothing to be celebrated. It can really wear you down. It can kill you. And if you don't try and protect yourself, they will just, they will just take you for everything you've got. And it's always at the expense of somebody else. They never lose. I've got, on both sides of my family, I've got military personnel over the years with Army and Navy. And on my grandmother, my mother's side, her family was from Brighton, and her brother was involved with ICI, and he was an MI6 agent. And the man she married was a soldier, and he ended up, fighting on the beaches of Normandy, and it was never the same when he came back. We've got stories from both sides. They didn't come back very well. So there's always a price to pay, So what they do is they just, they're mad for their, genetics and breeding programs. So you could be used for all kinds of experiments, let's say, rituals. One of my first experiences was from when I was about 2 in my bedroom, and I used to have these lights come in my room every night. And then my dad bought a TV in the house, and then I objected to that and wouldn't let anybody stand in front of it. And because the TV was staying, I had to move out of that room and anything I had in that room, and went into another room downstairs. So a little bit of odd behaviour. I think my parents, they used to put it down to imaginary friends and things like that. But I remember being pulled when I was about 8 or 9. And it was a press conference. And I'm not sure where it was, but it was outdoors. And they'd built up like a stage area for with table and chairs, and Margaret Thatcher, Dennis Healy, Douglas Hurd, Michael Hesseltine were all giving this conference. And I was in the crowd. They put me in the crowd on the right-hand side. It just in, but on the end. And I was given a device and an earpiece, and I was told when to use this device. So, you know, when you get pulled into an arena like that, you're going to have opposition that are going to look into what you're doing, so you can effectively incriminate yourself if you're not careful. And you're always open to attack from other sides. So you have to become pretty guarded, and it won't do you any good to think that you can just seclude yourself somewhere because you're not going to be able to protect yourself. You need to get yourself in amongst people who, let's say they can't, into areas that they can't just willy-nilly come in and out of when they feel like it, because of the social structure. That being with people we've got here, from prominent council people to your local drillers gang. So that's how that works. You could get your coat and your boots on and walk down the road, and then you get picked up by a couple of big goons in suits, get put into a car, be driven to a location, whether it be commercial or private. They sent me to pick up these daggers one night, 4 daggers in this old brown cloth. I had to pick those up from one location back in the car, took them to a commercial building in the city centre, and job done, I'm gone. So artifacts they look for, if they can send you to find those for them. Weapons, you know, weapons comes in all kinds of categories, from other psychics to something you carry for a shootout. That can vary. It just becomes do or die. So, you know, it doesn't stop at me. It goes to my children, and then it'll go to my children's children. They're all going to be used for these programs because of my DNA and the DNA that they've mixed to produce these children. So you can't hide from it. You have to face it, because it is a generational thing, you know, unless you're the end of your line, you know. You don't really fight it as a child because you have no control over it. And yeah, so something like that for me, it wouldn't be out of the ordinary, and I wouldn't talk about it. I never heard anybody else talk about it, so yeah, it's anything they can use you for. Once you are their property, you become their property, and you're on a register, and they know your uses and what you can do. They know they can send you into different dimensions, and if you get caught in those dimensions, they're coming for you, and you end up at one of these energy points, and you're running up spiral staircases, and they're chasing you, armed. Well, if you just look at how long they've been setting these lunatic asylums up for, you can compare that with how they destroyed the ecosystem. That gave them, the grounds to put these institutions on to cope with the effect that it was going to have on us, where we all got sick, mentally deranged, because we had this eco balance, and now it's been destroyed, and we're trying to live through it. We're plagued by diseases because the tree systems have all been destroyed. Like they use certain eucalyptus trees, certain cedar woods, and these are, you've still got some of these in like parts of Africa, maybe South America, where these trees, there are still a few of them left, and the farmers know how useful they are because they see it keeps the flies and the mosquitoes and all the bugs away from the food that they're trying to grow and the animals they're trying to raise. And they don't get all these problems with pesticides and fertilizers that the rest of the world are having. They understand the balance, because through these institutions, and whether it be hospitals, they've got records on you, your mother's mother, and it goes on and on. So they can source you, even if it be maybe security teams that would even be in a van and kidnapping children off the street. They know what children they want to kidnap. It's never a chance thing. So you might think little Timmy just ran down the road one day and he disappeared, but somebody saw a van. So when I was born, in a little town, let's say, by Plymouth, and that came under the jurisdiction of a certain MP that was a 322 Skull and Bones member, and they had the military, were involved in the hospitals, and they have their secret society people working within these institutions, so they know how to get around and know how to source from different institutions, whether it be through social services, or it can come from any way, any government agency, let's say, all the way to the chancellor in the van on the street. There'll always be a value in children, and if people know how and who, that's how they get paid. So there are not just people looking for certain people and certain, people that they pick out to find, but also you could just by chance be picked up for a ritual, or you never know. You never know. You have to, it takes a village, they say, to raise a child, but you got to be careful who's in that village, because I wouldn't recommend anybody just going to their doctor and saying, "Oh, I'm having these experiences, and I don't know what to do," because automatically they're going to be tapped. Let's get you in. Let's do an evaluation. And I know people that have been set up in that trap and never see them again. And these are highly influential people that had a bit of pulling power within social services and different departments like that. But because they stepped over the line and got involved with something they didn't quite understand, boom, never see them again. So it's hard to navigate, your way through it. It's a dangerous playing field. And it all comes down to what you can protect yourself with, again, at the end of the day. Because if you're able to, as a child, you get out of your body when you've been put to bed and you're gone. You maybe have fun, but there are traps. You have to be careful that where these traps are set, it becomes another minefield, because there are so many other things on there that you're not aware of. The traps and the cages. I'll give you an example. A 13-year-old boy woke up and told his mother that he'd been trapped in a cage all night. And a certain person that he knew had come and rescued him. But what that was, this person that had to be sent in to rescue them, they would be somebody that can get in and out of dimensional travel with the help of a guide to do something like that. And so I call them 13-foot soldiers. One of those was sent in, and when he came around, he said he had to rescue this boy out of a cage, and the boy was confirmed rescued out of the cage. So even though, they think it's a safe place, it can be really dangerous as well. I got caught at it actually when I was about 8. And I'd gone to stay with my mum's sister for a weekend, and I was sleeping in her bed with her, and I'd gone off and she was still reading. So I'd gone to sleep, and as soon as I go to sleep, I'm out of my body. I'm making my way out of the bedroom, but I'm still conscious that she's there reading in the book in the bed. As I make my way down the staircase, her cat sees me in the kitchen, and as he was on the worktop units, and as he saw me coming down the staircase, he came across the worktop and knocked a glass onto the floor, and the glass smashed. And I remember my aunt jumping and saying, "Oh, what was that?" And I can remember being on the staircase looking at the cat and my body in the bed with her, and I said, "It's okay, it's Sam, he knocked the glass off the worktop." And then I'd gone out the front door, and she said to me the next morning, how did you know? And I didn't really know how to explain to her that I was almost diagnosed. But she got it out of me. She said, there's something going on with you. And that's how she found out that I was getting out of body. But there used to be a large, built, tall man. My sister used to be absolutely terrified because of at night time when we'd been put to bed by mother, it would be this fear for her where she would look out the window and see this man standing outside our house. And she would have these fears of clown boots under the bed. But she was younger than me and didn't understand that when I was going to bed, I was going out of body. And this large man would be there waiting for when I did get out of body, and then I'd be taken somewhere. So they have control over, different aspects. Well, they're portals, and, so they're all kinds. This is why I say it can come at any direction, because they've got the maps, the ley lines, the energy points. They have them all as the control since they wrecked the ecosystem. They have dominated them, so they can use them for their own advantage. So they're the ones that are in control of them, and we're the ones that are sneaking in and out of them, unknown sometimes to ourselves. But, when these things are happening to you, you just have to roll with it. Even as you get older, you question some of the things you get involved with, but you can't because you didn't have any control over it. And you have to just try and make peace with that although they have control over you, there are certain aspects of things they couldn't get me to do. It doesn't matter how much control they think they have. I have power of my own, and they know this. They couldn't send me to do something so perverse, involved in children or adults, because I will flip and turn, and possibly your agents will end up in a box and not me. And I've got certain associates that I've had to keep over the years for things like this, and hide myself into communities where I'm going to be safe, so I can do this. Not everybody can do this. It's not easy to try and marry your life with some kind of stability and structure that you can hold for yourself without anybody can come and knock that and have access to you. And there are times when you do let your guard down. It's always been one straight run for me. I've never known anything different. It's people around me that have the problem accepting this. It's people in general that have a problem accepting anything that their fellow man would tell them, only for them not to believe. Everybody wants proof, and yet your statement isn't enough. There's all this disbelief, but because we've got a lot of disinformation agents, it just, it becomes a mass of confusion. So unless you take peace with it and just let your life roll with it, I don't make plans in my life, I never did, because it seems that it doesn't matter what's going to happen in 10 years' time. I've already prepared for it, because you get these downloads and you get these dark times when you don't understand why you're down and you're dark. But what's happening is you're having a download, and psychologically it's a lot to cope with, and then it files within your subconscious. And as you're living out the next 10 years, it all comes to plan. I'm never out of it. They can use me for whatever they want, but what they can't do is use me for total perversities. It's not going to work. They know I'll turn. There's only certain things they can send me for. Not everybody has that. This is what I'm saying to you. Not everybody has that. And they just get flipped up and down all their life. They don't know whether they're coming or going. Because they're just used for this, that. Things that they would object to, but they have no control over them making them do it, because they don't hold enough strength for them not to be able to. So we can't send that one to do that. It's not going to happen. So they know these boundaries are within us, if only we've got strength to show them that. They have assigned some real bastards to my life. But it was a case of overpowering them again. I've had to do this. It's not been easy. Like I say, people think, oh, this is exciting. It's not fucking exciting. It can finish you off. Not only you got to protect yourself, but if you have children, you've got to protect them as well, because they're going to come for them. And it's usually the lower dimensionals as well, the breeding programs and things like that. I'm just trying to think when it was now exactly, but I can't remember where it was, because it seemed to happen over a period of few months where I had to collect this child, a young male child, and I think maybe 3 or 4, and constantly I'm having to look out for this child at different points over these few months. This, I think it was about 3 years ago. So it's like, if you've ripped a child from a cage, you've saved a child from a cage. You've got to have somebody to pass that child to help you, and there will be, because there's always somebody there. Like I say, if you can build up, relationships ancestrally, that helps, because when you're praying to the higher dimensionals for help you need, whether it be for healing or help with a problem, and help will come from where you least expect it sometimes. So if I've passed that child into a place of hiding for a week, and then that hiding plan has expired, I've got to move that child onto another place until the time I can get the child out, or it will be something like that. That's not necessarily something they would send me in to do, but something I would do with another team. These teams we've had since childhood. But I always usually work with a group of, there's 4 of us. But a lot of the time we're on our own as well. We just do things on our own all the time. Usually in communities where they haven't got a stronghold. I can go into an inner city of, let's say, suburbs of Birmingham, and I can hide a child in that community then, where everybody's running up and down, going to the mosque, and everybody minds their own business. So, I've had different religious fractions I've used, and there are certain people in those religious fractions that must fall. But for now, it's because of their participation in stuff. So I know who those are, and I know who can be trusted. And this is stuff that you just learn with experience, really. Nobody can teach you this. And everybody's on their own path. So something happening to you is not going to be happening to the next person. Sometimes it's groundwork here. But what happens is we don't come from the same areas. We're from different areas and different races. So it's not all, and as I say, you do a lot on your own. But they could be from anywhere. But I have a few what I call ground people here that I've known from my childhood. That if I don't see them for 10 years, it's fine. If I knock upon your door, you're going to know it's me. And me and you have been through some things together. That's what holds us. But like I say, you can't do it on your own, really. You have to have prayer, and you have to have your ancestral guides. The way you do that is through your own DNA and your own family, and you do it through your children's DNA and their family. Because when they realize truth and love are involved with a relationship with you and your children, and the ancestors understand that can't be broken. And the higher dimensionals, they do come and they do give us a little bit of, give us a little bit of nudge from time to time to say we're still here. I've had so many visits from these higher dimensionals, some beautiful women, but they're not in traditional clothing like you'd think. It's from another, it's another dimensional thing. But they're absolutely beautiful people. And then it comes from not only, the humans, but the elven race and the giants, and it's all integrated in our DNA if we've mixed bloodlines. And the same uses that the cults for secret society will find use for you, the same uses the higher dimensionals will know and come and assist you with. So you find that balance eventually, and that's how you gain control. But a lot of people don't, because they're guided by these fools who think they know everything and can just stick a video on YouTube. You divulge your life, incriminate yourself, and the next thing you know, you've taken an overdose. And there's nobody there to help pick you up the pieces. They got their video. Nobody cares. Everybody came for you online, and it's become a dangerous place for anybody to try and seek refuge, let's say. It's like I say, you can't just go, full steam ahead and think you can run with this. You've got to take your time, and you've got to find like-minded people who are going to understand because they've done the research. And then you're going to have other experiences, they've had a certain experience and they want to know more. But like we were saying, if you find yourself in a situation where you think you've been involved in an event and a situation, and it's, your best bet is just to find a friend who will listen, rather than go on the internet and think you can divulge, because they're monstrous on there. And they will tear you apart. You have to live with the reality, and like I say, if you don't accept that and you try and fight it, you're more or less fighting yourself, because you have to overpower it. They target psychic children. That becomes a priority for them because they can use them. But with that, like I said, comes, we're not only psychic for you, we are psychic for ourselves. So you want to send us on a psychic program, but also we're going to be psychically monitoring you, who's sending me on that program, which enables me to psychically be in connection with higher dimensionals. This is why they can't get me to do perverse and disgusting things. But not everybody has got that barrier. No go. I'm a sitting duck at the moment. I've given them so many chances in the last 6 years to come and get me. It's unreal. And nobody's come. So it's like, what's your next move? But I already know that there's an event coming that I'm waiting for now, and I'm preparing for now. Week by week, month by month, there's certain things I'm putting into place for what's coming pretty soon. It's like, I know it's going to be a big, it's going to be a big event. So I know that it's not just me, that there are going to be people that are going to be popping up all over the place. They're like silent agents. They're waiting for things to move and happen, and they'll be coming out. It's just a matter of the timing with everything. Like somebody said to me, well, they control us, why don't they just do what they're doing, get on with it? What's all the waiting? But they can't. They have to wait for full moons. They have to wait for openings. They have to wait for rituals, and they have to do certain rituals then to follow that ritual. And it's a whole game for them that they're on every day and night, on a monthly kind of cycle. And then that plays into sun, and there's not just one sun, there's about 43 dotted throughout the world. I don't know if anybody knows about those, but everybody talks about this one sun in Switzerland. There's about 43 other ones that they've been there and built even from the 1940s, so that's another aspect of what they can open. And what they can use with that. That moves on to the technology that they're using. These, I call them hot boxes, where everything links to. While they're working on them above ground, they're having to use intense refrigeration to keep these hot boxes cold. What they ended up doing was going to the depths of the sea and getting a cold, very cold condition under there, where they could actually bolt these things to the bottom of the sea floor so they would be kept cool and not blow up. It goes on and on, Well, they're on a plan of destruction at the moment. They want as much destruction and death as they can get away with. I found some registers about 15 years ago. One of them was a population register, and it was looking at population figures from back then and how they were going to bring populations down within each country and end up with the figures that they wanted. So and the kind of average among those figures was like a third of a population would be left of what they were, recording 10, 15 years ago. Then I found more registers that had to do with weather control and what year certain countries had joined the register in, introducing their own weather systems on their own country, which is another eco-disaster. It always comes down to good and evil. This is what I'm saying. These disinformation people, that they've been pushing the UFO agenda to all kinds of levels over the last, 50 years, let's say. But, it's all to do with dimensions. They are linked with Orion and Sirius. But it doesn't come down to an ET plan. It comes down to an evil plan where they want control of whatever assets. But to do that now, they're going to, where in the day they used religion to encourage a marriage and have lots of children for the industry, the mass industry that we were going to be working in, the factories. So, these religious people getting married and having child after child after child. So now they don't need an industrial population to do their work for them anymore, because they've got their bases, they've got their technology, they have their assets. And every different country is run by a different head. All those heads aren't what you see as the monarch or political system. They're just front people to an agenda that you wouldn't believe. The power, the technology that these, the heads of these countries, it's something, probably you see in a film, let's say, but you wouldn't really believe in real life. Yeah, so it's their agenda. I mean, this 1972 UN agenda was agreed, and now everything happening from that is on the agenda. People call it biblical prophecy. I call it having the technology to do that shit. So people will think it's biblical prophecy. It really is a battleground, but if you can find a friend and open-minded, you're safer. Your doctor's not going to help you. Your practitioner nurse certainly isn't going to help you. All they'll do is send you for psychological evaluations and stitch you up and leave you in a wreck or in prison. Um, so it's research is always your best friend as well, because the more you research, the more you understand. We've had a lot of our knowledge taken. They burnt everything in the 14th century, so we wouldn't have any access to artifacts and things like that and books. But there was the demonology books were written before the Bible, so we have those to understand the infrastructure of how they've relayed this on the map, and what kind of gods are in charge of what part of the world and how they align up. James Casbolt. He was phoning me before he got sentenced. He went over to America and he got involved with a high-powered family over there, and ended up marrying the daughter, and he had a son, Dresden. And then he got kicked out of America. He ended up back here. And then he foiled a blackmail plot because they wouldn't let him see his son, and he was absolutely devastated. So he tried every trick in the book to, make some kind of, public outcry, really. And it made a few of their personal videos and photos, tried to blackmail them online anyway. It didn't work out. He ended up getting sentenced 12 years he got, and then about 2 years later they dropped it to 4 years, I think it was. He appealed and he got 4 years. So he was supposed to come out a few years ago, and people were waiting for him. He was writing to me in the jail, but my letters were intercepted and never got them. So the few phone calls that we were having up until he got sentenced, the last contact I had with him, but I did tell people he's not going to be coming out the front gate. And when people went to, pick him up, some of other researchers I know have been involved in this stuff as well. They went to meet him. They couldn't get a visit to see him either, but they went to catch him on his gate release, and he wasn't there. And I knew he had been taken out the back door. I told everybody a year before, you're not going to see him, he's going to be taken out the back door. So I don't know whether he's in secure accommodation, which some people say, and he's been banned from using the internet and having any contact with any of us, or he's joined forces with one of the societies, in which case me and him could butt head. That's just another possibility I'm up for. It can work anyway. It's fractured. Sometimes you get flashbacks and you're trying to pin them down. It's so hard, But there are a lot of people that, just try to tear him apart. I couldn't get involved. I got too much at stake. And I did feel bad for not backing him up on certain subjects at the time, but now I look back and I think I had to do that. It was preservation above anything else, and not getting involved in another bucket of water. I just, I don't know if he might be prompted when he hears other people bringing certain information out. It might bring him out of the cave. I'm not sure. It's a theory I'm testing, so I'll just see how it goes. Because they can't ban you for life, can they? From using the internet and communications. So he might be prompted by somebody to come out. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, really sad what happened with him. But he told everybody, don't worry about me, I'm fine. Whatever happens, happens. And he knows that's my theory as well. Whatever we do, we can't, got no control over it. We're going to get dragged in. You see, to be involved in this is to have a lot of intelligence. And you just have to keep that intelligence to yourself until you can find other like-minded people to try and share. But the same thing happened to Max Spears. He came out, he was trying to warn everybody about, and I remember they were going to the conference in Poland. Oh, I had to take a breath back. I was like, no way, there's no way you're going to be over there messing with those Eastern European witches. And I just had a hunch. And, gosh, within a few days, I had a phone call off Miles to say something's happened to Max. And I think a lot of us felt what was going on, and it weren't good. Whatever they did with him, I don't know. But, they sent his body back, and his mother had to bury him, and people still got no idea of, what really happened to him. It's really sad. So I didn't know Max, but I was in contact with James. There's a lifetime's worth, so it's, bringing it all to front at the right time, so we can always pick up anytime you're ready.